Everyone, this is Chris Morgan, put my hat on straight, Chief Performance Officer for KAATSU Global, and I'm here with Steven Munatones, our fearless leader. And you see right there is the Eiffel Tower, the iconic Eiffel Tower. Well, we scheduled this live this morning because we were hopeful that we would be watching live the para-triathlon. We're here at the 2024 Paris Paralympics, and unfortunately I'm gonna just switch my camera around. This is where the swim will be happening, and you can see the river today is quite still compared to 2 weeks ago when it was really flowing. The current goes towards me, and you can see all the turn buoys down there, the safety boats, but it was canceled today, or postponed, not canceled, but postponed due to the weather, the heavy rains last night up that way. So the bridge you see there is it's called the Pont Alexandre le III, the Alexander III bridge. But yeah, we're still going to be here to answer your questions because we've got some really good questions. Steve and I are going to talk about KAATSU, and yeah.
Okay, so the first question is from a nurse practitioner, and she uses KAATSU herself, and she recommends it to her patients. Of course, she says the major drawback is the cost, but she points out to her patients that it's a one-time expenditure. I'll address that point later, but she has several questions. The first question is, KAATSU makes my fingernails grow long and hard. Does this correlate to what KAATSU is doing for bone strength? So those are correlated. So in other words, when you do KAATSU, and I have the KAATSU band on my arm here, when you're doing KAATSU, you notice that your hand or your feet gets rosy or pink. That's when the blood is engorged in the limb. And when you do limited movement, some movement, or maximum movement, and it could be as simple as typing on a keyboard, it could be open and close your hands, it could even be holding a book. Whether you're holding a book, sort of an isometric hold, or you're moving, walking, etc., and your limbs are engorged in blood, what this does is it actually makes the vascular wall expand more than normal. When it expands more than normal, that signal is sent up to the brain through your central nervous system, and then your brain reacts, and it reacts in various ways. We often find that people who do body weight exercises like walking, squats, push-ups, etc., the metabolites that are produced because of that with KAATSU cycle, that actually enables the fingernails to grow. It also enables some women and some older men to have a increased bone density, and that's measured through a variety of ways, osteoporosis, there's a variety of tests, etc. There's a very specific medical explanation that was created by the physicians at the University of Tokyo Hospital. And if you have any questions, we can send you out that very detailed explanation. It has medical illustrations, and once you read it, especially for the nurse practitioner, you will understand that. It goes into great depths on that. Her second, so fingernail growth, which we've seen quite often, and the increase in bone strength are correlated because of this mechanism. Her second question is, it appears to help my sleep. Is this explainable? Actually, we're here at the invitation of the IOC and the World Olympians Association, both for the Summer Olympics and the Summer Paralympics. And the reason why is they had been doing studies on KAATSU for quite some time. One of the studies they did was before the Tokyo Olympics. Now, if we remember back in Tokyo, it was in the midst of the COVID pandemic, and there was, unfortunately, no people in the stands. Athletes had to do a variety of testing, etc. One of the conditions for the Olympic athletes was they could only be in the Olympic Village 5 days before their event, and they had to leave immediately. Typically, Olympians and Paralympians are in the host city for weeks ahead of time, getting their body acclimated to the time zone, the food, etc. But in the Tokyo Olympics, because of the pandemic, they had to limit that to 5 days. So that put athletes who are on the East Coast of the United States and Western Europe at a huge disadvantage, because they had to travel from their home country or home base to Tokyo, literally a half a world away. And therefore, you know, when you change your body clock, literally flip it over 12 hours faster or 12 hours earlier, this means that you have tremendous jet lag. So in anticipation of that, we shared with the IOC sports scientists how KAATSU is able to minimize or mitigate your the effects of jet lag. Now, part of that was our explanation of how that occurs, and we provided our explanation. The scientists objectively tested their explanation, and this is what our recommendation is. Our recommendation is when you, or if you have insomnia, you have sleep problems, you're even stressed from a long day of work or life in general, or you have jet lag, you put the bands on your arms, not your legs, on your arms, within an hour of sleep, ideally within a half an hour of going to bed, and you do what we call very slight exercises. You can open and close your hands slowly. You can roll your shoulders left and right, and you can do some slight exercises or stretching. So what does this do? What this does is it engorges the limbs and blood, but also, very, very importantly, we've measured at the University of Tokyo Hospital that it actually increases the elasticity of the capillaries and veins of your neck going to your brain. And what does that do? That actually means you relax. So even you might be stressed out because of work issues, and when you go to bed and you're tensed up, so you're all tensed up, you're thinking about everything you have to do that day and the day after, the likelihood of you getting a deep, high quality sleep is lessened. The reverse is when the muscles of your neck, the muscles of your upper body are relaxed. This allows the blood flow between your body and the brain to go more fluidly. You're more relaxed, therefore the tendency is to sleep better. In addition, when you have your arms, bands on your arms, and you get the limbs engorged in blood, warm blood, more warm blood in your arm means that literally the temperature of your upper body is increased. Now what you do when you take off the bands, now that engorgement of blood in the limbs is lessened. It goes back to what we call homeostasis, and when homeostasis, at least on the surface and slightly underneath, your body literally starts to cool. Now imagine, let's look at the Japanese culture or many different cultures. You take a warm bath before you go to bed, and then you get from that warm bath into your bed. Your body actually is cooling. One of the triggers for a good night's sleep is actually to move from that very warm condition to a slightly cooler condition. So a lot of the sleep scientists will tell you that you should sleep in a cooler room than a warm room. And so you have this increased elasticity in your veins. You have this reduced body temperature, especially on the upper side. And so with that reduction of body temperature and increased elasticity, that leads you to a better quality sleep. So what you're experiencing is not unusual, and that is actually what we teach the Olympians or business people or travelers who are crossing many multiple time zones. Her next question is, can I rehab from an Achilles tendon injury for someone reluctant to stop daily walking? Yes, very much. So we had quite a number of high-profile athletes in the NFL, very high, the highest profile NFL quarterbacks, and they actually ruptured their Achilles tendon. So their Achilles tendon runs on the lower half of your leg, and that actually tore from the bone. Then they reattach it, the surgeons, and they anchor it in. Obviously, since they're very high profile, highly paid NFL quarterbacks and the like, they don't want to stop exercising. Similar to your friend who does not want to stop his or her daily walks. So in this case, we put the KAATSU bands on the legs. We do a number of KAATSU cycles before they move. So a number of KAATSU cycles. That could be 6, it could be even 12 for people who are Navy SEALs, businessmen. We even have had stand-up comedians. They've hurt themselves, and as a stand-up comedian once told me, Steve, have you ever seen a stand-up comedian sit down during a performance? And the answer is no. So what we do with these NFL quarterbacks, these Navy SEALs, these stand-up comedians, when they do hurt their lower body, we recommend to them that they do a number of KAATSU cycles. So a number meaning 6 or more. Start off at a low pressure, build up to a higher pressure, and that gradual, progressive, incremental increase in pressure is ideal, actually unbelievably ideal. Then after you've done a number of those, you can simply, in the cases where you've just got injured, you're just coming off a surgery, do what your physical therapist and your orthopedic surgeon recommend, whatever that is. It could be walking in your room. In the case of the high-profile athletes or the special forces operators, they actually walk further distances every day, getting a little more, not a power walk, not a jog, but a nice, slow, comfortable walk. And we've seen that time and time again for the fastest and most efficient way to rehab from a Achilles tear, Achilles surgery, Achilles rupture. So her next question is, how does one get just as much benefit from using it as they go about their day as they would use it for weightlifting or other on purposeful exercise? So in other words, we recommend that people use KAATSU in the course of their daily life. We have estheticians who use KAATSU on their arms or legs as they're treating somebody. They're giving facials, they're doing other things. We have people in our own company, we largely use KAATSU as we're typing emails, even on Zoom meetings and conferences. So we actually have it on our arms or legs as we're sitting down in our desk, conducting business, doing work. We have other people who don't do weightlifting. They do not. They're not a member of the gym. They don't do a 10K run. They don't go to the swimming pool or fitness club. In these cases, it's perfectly okay. In fact, it's better when you incorporate KAATSU in the course of your daily life, and that could be everything from putting on makeup, blow drying your hair. It could be washing the dishes. And in cases that I think is fantastic is actually using KAATSU when you vacuum, sweep, wash the windows of your car, clean the kitchen table. Anytime when your body, upper body or lower body is moving in a gentle, steady state without lifting weights is actually much better. And why is it much better? Because this gentle action of movement, either in a circular manner, up and down, or back and forth, is very gentle. And with the KAATSU cycle, pressure on, pressure off, you're actually building up lactate in a very incremental manner. And especially for people who are older, and I'll say older, over the age of 50, this is much better than a vigorous, high intense lifting weights or otherwise. In addition, it becomes convenient. It becomes part of your daily lifestyle. And when it becomes part of your daily lifestyle, it's easier to do. So in other words, you can do this while you are preparing to go to work. You could do it in the middle of the day. You could even be doing it while you're watching TV or reading a book. So sitting on a couch, you could be just rolling your shoulders up and down. You can be extending your feet forwards. You could be rotating your ankles. This kind of gentle work is ideal. And oh no, we have some other questions. The next question is, can it help with chronic hemorrhoids? My guess is yes. It depends. So with hemorrhoids, when think about, you've got your colon, you've got your you have your intestines, you have the organs of your lower body. And now, even if you have KAATSU on your arms or your legs, you're actually increasing the elasticity of those capillaries, veins, and arteries down there. So increase the elasticity. Why? When you have it on your legs, you actually have more blood in your legs, especially if you do movement. And we recommend people to do very simple walking. It could be walking your dog, or it can be simply doing household chores around the work. Don't recommend you to be doing squats or jumping jacks or running up a hill. You don't need to do that. Just very slow, deliberate movement, nothing rushed, very casual. When you do that, imagine you have more blood in your legs. That necessarily means you have a finite amount of blood in your body, and you have lesser blood in the remaining part of your body. But the blood is flowing at a steady rate. So the blood is actually flowing faster, meaning blood circulation is improving more in from your groin on up. And having this increased elasticity can help some people, so with hemorrhoids. So, and then the last question is very, very interesting to us, to Chris and me, especially since we're here at the Paralympics. Chris and I have dealt with and worked with a lot of people who have either temporary or permanent paralysis. Obviously here, there are people with spinal cord injuries who have had limbs that have been unfortunately either blown off or torn off or what have you. We have people with a variety of conditions, from cerebral palsy to spinal bifida, all kinds of stuff. And many of these people have paralysis in different parts of the body. Now, I'm not here to say it will reverse paralysis. That's not our claim. What happens is the body actually sort of wakes up, if you will. So especially for those people who are quadriplegics or paraplegics, what we've seen is when we do repeated KAATSU cycles. And when I mean repeated KAATSU cycles is, let's say, especially I'll give you one example. Sergeant First Class Joe Lowry, he's a Purple Heart recipient. He took a bullet to the head when he was in Afghanistan in a firefight with the Taliban. He immediately fell down. He was in a coma for over a month, and then he had several years of rehabilitation. Ultimately, he came to KAATSU. When we first met him, he could not stand up, and that was 6 years ago. Now, Sergeant Lowry is actually doing at least 2,000 steps a day. So he went from being entirely wheelchair bound to not being able to stand, and now he's doing 2,000 steps a day. We have other people who have had these kinds of remarkable changes, but it requires literally daily, twice daily repetition, disciplined repetition of the KAATSU cycles, always starting at low and then gradually building up. And again, what we're primarily doing is increasing the blood flow in the area. When we work on amputees, and let's say they have a residual limb, no hand, obviously they cannot do weightlifting, they can't do a variety of things. However, we still put the arm on their residual limb. When we do that, it actually increases the blood flow in their residual limb, and this actually helps with their pain levels. Why? Because that vascular tissue gets more engorged in blood, and that act itself, that mechanical or that metabolic process, leads to all of these hormonal changes. Now, we don't know exactly why, and it doesn't happen with everybody, and so we do what we can. We have another question from Marilyn Smith, and her question is, I only use the cycle mode for 6 cycles, about 35 minutes, now on maximum pressure. I do it after arm workouts. I also do it on days. I'm not quite sure. I'm sorry. Marilyn Smith was the nurse practitioner who previously asked a question. This question is from Brad, and he says he only uses the cycle mode for 6 cycles at 35 minutes at maximum pressure. That's very good, Brad. Keep that up. We always recommend that you start at a low pressure and then build up. You'll find if you start at a low pressure and build up, when you start to do the maximum pressure, your vascular tissue is actually more prepared. Your musculature is more prepared for harder work. So if you can, start off with low, proceed to medium, go to high. So in other words, you can do 2 cycles on low, 2 cycles on medium, 2 cycles on high, and you will find when you reach the high level that your maximum output of movement is actually feels better, and you'll feel stronger. The next question actually comes from Matthew. And his question is, can KAATSU minimize or reverse the effect of these OPRA endorsed protocols? And the OPRA endorsed protocols are GLP-1 and GLP-2, and they're associated with muscle atrophy. Unfortunately, Matthew, I did not, I'm just reading these questions now. I do not know what these OPRA endorsed protocols are, but if they're associated with muscle atrophy, most definitely what we do with KAATSU for a variety of people, and most of the people who do KAATSU are over the age of 55. So what we do with them is we start off very slowly, just like we explained to Brad. Start with low pressure, and you can simply do muscle contraction. So yeah, sorry, the sun is blazing, and my colleague Chris has been holding up the
I'm here.
yeah, he's been holding up the phone this entire way. So what I would suggest is, Chris, you want to rest your arm on a...
So here, I'm going to do this. We're going to flip the angle here so you guys can see me. Yeah. And then I can answer we see some people here too. So let me get Steven back. There we go.
Okay.
Great.
So is it Brad? I think it is Matthew, who asked the question about the OPRA endorsed protocols. I don't know what those are specifically, but we do work with a lot of people who have muscle atrophy. They have muscle atrophy after, let's say, a hip surgery, after a major surgery, or when they've been bedridden for a while, or they've just been had a long sedentary lifestyle. So in these cases, we always start with low. We always recommend that the first 5-10 minutes they do nothing but just actually sit there, be very well hydrated. Then at that point, you can start doing different kinds of exercise, very simple exercise, just opening and closing your hand. You can actually put your hands together and press, let's say to the count of 3 or the count of 5. So 1, 2, 3, release. Again, 1, 2, 3, release. You can do that 10 times with the KAATSU bands on, the cycle mode, and that actually will help increase the vascular perfusion of blood in the limbs. That actually sends a signal to the brain. The brain senses stress in the muscles. When it senses stress in the muscles, then the brain automatically from the pituitary gland actually sends out human growth hormone. Human growth hormone is the hormone that actually helps us build muscle or maintain muscle. And so whatever these Oprah endorsed protocols are, you can actually overlay KAATSU with that and combine. And that's what we recommend for everybody. We don't say just do KAATSU, although some people only do KAATSU. But whatever your form of leisure or exercise is, you can use KAATSU as you're doing these other protocols or exercises or applications. That is ideal because we want people to do KAATSU every day. We want it to become part of your lifestyle. It is not something that we want to be forced upon you. It is something that you can incorporate into your lifestyle very easily. And when it's something that you can very easily and conveniently incorporate in your lifestyle, you will do it daily. And that daily use of KAATSU really has a major cumulative effect on the body, especially if we're looking at something like muscle atrophy after surgery or because of a sedentary lifestyle. Sorry, I lost your question.
Oh, Steve, while you're looking, next question, we have some questions here. So hopefully everyone can hear me even though I'm just showing Steven. So from one of our listeners, watchers with the handle Love asked, hi, will KAATSU help relax neck muscles and other tense muscles? And I think that's what Steven was explaining, that yes, it's certainly because of the engorgement and the relaxation as we were talking about with the sleep protocols. So you may have asked that question after we answered it, but so the answer is yes, most definitely helps relax the tense muscles. And we have another couple of questions, but I'll get to those next.
Yeah, and keep in mind, you don't have to use a high pressure. In fact, we don't want you to use a high pressure. The equipment is, there's always set at low, medium, and high pressure, and then there's a custom pressure. Custom pressure can be used lower than low and higher than the higher pressures. So just feel comfortable with KAATSU. And people say, well, I don't know how high to put the KAATSU on. And I don't know if you can see, but I have one hand on low pressure here, and I have
you can see the difference.
Other hand, I don't have KAATSU this high. As I've been talking, I've been doing KAATSU, and so that is perfectly fine. I don't know, but if I had a tape measure or if I didn't have my jacket on, my muscle here would actually be bigger and it would appear bigger simply because there's this additional engorgement of blood and lymphatic fluid, etc. in my muscle. But in fact, it's working out. Even if I'm just talking with my hands, doing this or opening my glands or pointing, whatever, walking even, is actually a mechanical stress on my body. It's created a metabolic response, and therefore that actually can help reverse not only the muscle atrophy, but also for many of you who do exercise, after you exercise, you feel relaxed. So instead of me going to the gym and running on a treadmill or lifting weights, I could be doing KAATSU as I'm washing the dishes or as I'm turning the pages of the book. Metabolically speaking, it's the same. Now, of course, if I'm on a bench press and I'm lifting maximum weight, as opposed to simply using KAATSU and washing the dishes, those are two different levels of intensity. But in fact, the intensity of simple washing of dishes or rolling the shoulders or rolling the neck with KAATSU is a form of exercise, and when it's over, then you do feel more relaxed. Chris, was there another?
Yeah, so we have a two-part question from user Cirrus Large. The first question is, how do I use the KAATSU C4 with the Vasa Swim Erg to improve my swimming? Stephen will definitely be able to help this. One thing is just, the first question person, Love said thank you, so you're welcome. but I think it's understanding the position of where to put the C4, which Stephen will explain. Most important is use it in the cycle mode.
Yes. So it's funny. Chris is an Olympic swim coach, and Chris himself actually came up with a very innovative way for swimmers to maintain their strength and at least somewhat maintain their stamina when during the pandemic. So Chris was located in Boston, and he had he had a very large swim team then, and a lot of the high school kids and junior high school kids and even the college kids. Chris has also been an Olympic swim coach, so he had some Olympic swimmers that he was coaching, and they were stuck not being able to swim in a pool, not being able to train. So they did use the Vasa trainer. A wonderful advice. It's like a bench. You lie down on it, and then with some hand paddles, you replicate either swimming freestyle or butterfly. You can even go on that bench and go on your back and replicate the backstroke stroke. You can put these same hand paddles or feet paddles on your feet and replicate the breaststroke kick. So whether you're swimming butterfly, freestyle, backstroke, or breaststroke on the Vasa trainer, with KAATSU, it is the equivalent of, or it's similar to, doing the Vasa trainer at sea level, and then doing the Vasa trainer at 5 or 6 or 7,000 feet, or 1 or 2 or 3,000 meters in altitude. Because when you do KAATSU, the muscles in the limbs become slightly hypoxic or deoxygenated, and it actually creates even more stress. So for the person who asked the question, you can email us at info at kaatsu.com, and we can give you very specific workouts that Olympic swim coach Chris came up with during the pandemic to help the competitive swimmers, master swimmers, English channel swimmers, etc., use during the pandemic to maintain their strength and stamina. Very easy, start out low, go high, but there was also times when he would have the swimmers with the KAATSU bands either on their arms or their legs, not both, so arms or legs, and they would be doing the freestyle, butterfly, backstroke, or breaststroke strokes, and they would do it. Chris is a swim coach, so he would give them literally sets. I don't know, 3 sets of 1 minute piece.
Yeah, we would do a lot on time or stroke count.
Yeah, so it was very innovative. Info at kaatsu.com. Okay, the next question. Ooh, there's a lot of questions here from Jim. Okay, this is a lot of questions. Jim is 70 years old, and he has idiopathic AFib for over 35 years. He just had recent symptoms of CHF, which have begun to surface. He has been doing KAATSU for over 3 years because I needed a moderate way to stay fit without losing muscle mass. He says, this is his opinion and somewhat anecdotal, but I'll repeat it. KAATSU appears to be not causing me any harm, and it's increasing my muscle mass. Most importantly, KAATSU sessions always make me feel better during and afterwards. Having said these things, not all AFib patients are the same. Absolutely true. That was my comment. Absolutely true. Not all AFib patients are the same. Maybe KAATSU can cause harm with people with AFib. For example, and this is Jim speaking, all evidence points to the likelihood that my AFib was caused by injury early in his life. His injury likely damaged my vagus or cranial nerve or both. If that is true and the rest of my cardiovascular system is in good health, then KAATSU may be good for me. So how did Jim test KAATSU on himself? He started out using the lowest settings for KAATSU bands. Very good, Jim, my comment, and only the arm bands. He used a blood pressure cuff to measure his blood pressure before and during the KAATSU session. Very good, my comment. He noticed his blood pressure did not rise during the KAATSU session and actually lowered slightly. Very correct, Jim. Very astute test on yourself. And why is that? The reason why is as you're doing KAATSU and you start out with low, you're increasing the elasticity of your vascular tissue. When you increase elasticity of your vascular tissue, every heartbeat, that blood is ejected out of the, or pumped out of the heart, and now you have this increased elasticity. Actually, then the blood circulation is actually easier. You're actually putting less stress on the heart, slightly, but less stress. So that was a very good finding, Jim. Jim also uses a chest strap heart monitor. The brand is Polar H10, with an iWatch to measure his heart rate before and during the sessions. He noticed his heart dropped a few beats per minute during the session, even while I'm doing low to moderate exercises. Again, a very astute, accurate observation in his case. Again, he's a 70-year-old man with idiopathic AFib using KAATSU during his workouts on low pressure. And all of these outcomes that he's seen that Jim very accurately measured can be answered by the mechanism of KAATSU. He uses a Massimo pulse oximeter before and during each KAATSU session. This Massimo pulse oximeter, many of you or all of you have been in a hospital or sometimes in a doctor's office. They put this little monitor on your finger. It through infrared, it measures the pulse of your fingertips, and then we can derive your heart rate, your perfusion index, your SpO2, your oxygen saturation, and a variety of other things through this device. And so obviously Jim is at the top of the game in terms of using medical devices in order to understand what is happening in his body before, during, and after KAATSU. In 2 months, Jim is scheduled to take an echocardiogram on his heart function. After the echo technician finished, I will ask him if he'll do another echo while I'm wearing the KAATSU bands. Jim, you have our ultimate respect, and we tip our hats off to you in your search for what is happening physiologically in your body. This is great. So my hope is all of this information will provide enough background information for my cardiologist to see the effect of KAATSU on his cardiovascular system. So his question is, so we had all this background on Jim, the 70-year-old with AFib. His question is, can I use KAATSU when I have AFib? And can I use KAATSU when I have idiopathic AFib and a low heart ejection fraction? 3.4 was my last measurement. So we are not doctors, we do not pretend to be. We always go back and say, Jim, in this case, you have to discuss this with your cardiologist. Now, many of our patients do the same. They go in to see their cardiologist and they ask their cardiologist, can I use KAATSU? And typically 99.9% of the times, the doctor, the cardiologist will say, what is KAATSU? As he or she is asking what is KAATSU, they're also Googling KAATSU. As they Google KAATSU, they will not find KAATSU.com. What they will find is a variety of blood flow restriction or BFR devices. Now these blood flow restriction devices are largely tourniquets or modified blood pressure cuffs. 100% of the time, the cardiologist will say, no, you cannot use it. And this is what always happens time and time again. What we suggest, if you do not have a KAATSU machine, or you have you do have a KAATSU machine, take that device in with you to the cardiologist, because the impact of a cardiologist Googling KAATSU, finding BFR, looking at the BFR information on his or her iPad or phone, smartphone, is not what KAATSU is. KAATSU is not a modified blood pressure tourniquet cuff. It's not a tourniquet, and for very good reason. That's why we don't use the word cuff to explain these bands, which were very, very specifically designed to allow the arterial flow, so the flow from your heart to your hand, to continue unimpeded and only slightly and temporarily, briefly, reduce the venous return back. If a cardiologist sees this and understands the actual device and understands that there's no impedance or occlusion of arterial blood flow into the limbs, and there is only a slight and brief modification of venous return on the body, then their mindset can change. In other words, oh, it's not dangerous. There's no cardiologist on this planet who would advise people to put on a modified blood pressure cuff or tourniquet on their arm and exercise. That is what BFR is. It is not what KAATSU is. And so, very importantly, when you do go to see your cardiologist, and this is my long-winded way to provide an answer to Jim, who has AFib, show them the device. Put on the device. Now, in my case, my own case with my cardiologist, I put on the device, and the doctor said at that moment in time, take that device off. You're not doing that in my hospital or in my clinic. Of course, I attempted to explain to him that it was perfectly safe and it was my choice to do that. And of course, it was under his purview to say, no, you're under my care now, so you're not doing that. That was very specifically what a number of cardiologists said to me. Finally went to a cardiologist who was a longtime friend of mine. I put it on, did it, and he goes, oh, that's interesting. He eventually bought one. We now actually have 9 cardiologists in the United States that have KAATSU or use KAATSU, which is very comforting because 25 years ago when I began this, there was no cardiologist outside of China or Japan that would use KAATSU. Now, why do the Asian countries use KAATSU for people with all kinds of cardiovascular diseases? Because they understand how gentle it is. They understand how you're supposed to put it on with light pressure, not lifting weights, not doing vigorous exercise, but something done very lightly and very gradually under their watchful eye. So because of this 25 years of experience, we took what the cardiologists and their physiologists were doing in Tokyo and Beijing, and we engineered it into the products now. But with anybody with AFib or any who's experienced a cardiac event or have any cardiovascular issues, we always recommend for you to take in the unit, show it to your physician, and then allow him or her to make that decision. Most likely they will have a number of questions. If they have a number of questions, again, 99% of the physicians will say, well, I want to see a published scientific research on this. We have that. So if your cardiologist says, you're not doing that, no way, no how, but they're open to reading published scientific journals on the use of KAATSU with with patients with cardiovascular issues, we can provide that. So again, send that email to us at info@kaatsu.com and we will provide that information to you. Chris, were there any other questions?
Yeah, so still the same person who asked about the using the C4 with swimming. That's serious large, and encourage this person to reach out to us at info@kaatsu.com. I can get you some really good stuff on swimming, especially how to use the position of it while you're using it. Because what most people will do is they'll put it on constant mode and not understand how to use it at all. So difficult for us to give you all the details here. So reach out with all of your really good questions. This person has asked some really good questions, so I'll leave it to reach out to us. No, that's it.
Well, we have more questions, many more. These series of questions come from Maria. And Maria is a 74-year-old woman who's had fabulous results from working out with KAATSU. But I discontinued after I had blood clots in my lungs last summer. Sorry to hear that. I miss my KAATSU workouts so much and really noticed that I am not maintaining my strength and overall fitness like she had before. My doctor does not know anything about KAATSU and will not advise me on the safety or danger of KAATSU after a blood clot. By the way, she was prescribed Eliquis blood thinner for 6 months, and she's not on any medication now. By the way, Maria, I am also on a heavy dosage of Eliquis, and so I'll just leave it at that. And I do KAATSU twice daily at least. Do you believe it is safe to do KAATSU workouts after blood clots? Any research you can provide to support that opinion would be very much appreciated. I'm really hoping it's safe to return to KAATSU training. Okay, so a few things. Yes, we will provide, Maria, if you could send an email at info@kaatsu.com, we will send you out published research. You can copy, make a copy, or when you next see your cardiologist, you can show them that. We do have a number of cardiologists now in the United States, elsewhere, obviously in Asia, where they've been doing this for over 20 years on a number of patients. Maria, we did before we ever launched in the United States, we did a over 12,000 person test of KAATSU at the University of Tokyo Hospital. It was done with a variety of the number of cardiologists, and the cardiologists were...
Are you waiting for the...
Non, on sait déjà, ouais.
Comme c'est
Oh non, il n'y a pas grave, ouais. Non, on est au courant. Ouais,
demain.
ouais, demain, nous on sait, ouais. Ouais, merci.
So we're here at the Olympic Triathlon Paralympic course, and we're supposed to it's a beautiful course. This is the Seine River. We see the Eiffel Tower in the background. There are beautiful, beautiful bridges. Chris, if you could show the people in the background the bridges. And there are the VIP seating. There's a large screen TV. There's the palace to our right. There's the Louvre to our left. That's not the Louvre, but over
The
that
Louvre is
direction.
down that way.
Yes. And go down the river, and there's Notre Dame. It's an absolutely fantastic area, and we're here. But if the triathlon had occurred this morning, this would have been packed with people watching the Paralympic athletes swim in the river, and then hop on their bicycles or their wheelchairs to bike and run around this area. So it is absolutely a fantastic Paralympics. Chris and I have seen swimming and track and field and a variety of other events. It is absolutely amazing and electrifying to see these athletes who are missing limbs. They're little people, they have cerebral palsy, they have all kinds of conditions that they deal with on a 24/7, and these athletes, many of whom, not most, but many of whom use KAATSU as a form of training, as a form of pain reduction. And so Chris and I are here helping those athletes and helping other people who are double amputees, people who've had various kinds of injuries elsewhere. I don't know, Chris, if you want to move, so I don't know if the voice is over.
Yeah, and if you speak a little louder,
Okay.
it'll help.
And so, well, why don't we move, because you'll be here for a while. We'll just move down here.
Yeah, yeah. Right here is good. Okay, yeah, sorry, we had some people who were...
That's all right. Everybody's an Olympic fan watching these incredible individuals competing in all number of events, from wheelchair, basketball to triathlon, swimming, track and field, etc. So Chris and I are here because we are helping these disabled individuals perform better and actually feel better. So Anyway, getting back to, was it Maria's question about doing KAATSU after blood clot. We would recommend typically no, but every individual is different on your stage in life, your fitness levels, your use of KAATSU or not KAATSU. Whatever the situation is, take that information that we can share it with you to your cardiologist. If they have any questions, even if the cardiologist is typically not going to take the time to call us. What they will do is typically, if you can ask that your cardiologist a specific question that they have, somehow remember it, record it, write it down, and then send that information to us. We can then provide you with a detailed answer. The reason why is, again, we did that 12,000 person test with a team of cardiologists in the University of Tokyo from 2004 to 2014. A 10-year study, and the cardiologists there proved that KAATSU was safe and effective for people with a variety of cardiac issues. In that study, they do address blood clots, but on the face of it, anybody with cardiac issue, blood clots, stroke, etc., always 100% of the time strongly recommend that they go and speak with their physician, because everybody is different. For example, everybody who does KAATSU, but especially people who have had a blood clot, must be 100% well hydrated before they do KAATSU. It seems like a very simple, non-intuitive recommendation, but we know through this 10-year study of 12,000 people at the University of Tokyo Hospital that is absolutely necessary. And what do we mean by well hydrated? Well hydrated does not mean taking a cup of coffee and then training in the early morning. Well hydrated means that you're taking at least a bottle, big glass of water within half an hour of doing KAATSU. It means that your urine is clear or nearly clear. If your urine is yellow or bright yellow, it means your body is dehydrated. We do not want you to be doing KAATSU in that state. We absolutely need you to do KAATSU in a very, very low pressure. Not high pressure, not medium pressure, low pressure. We also recommend, I have this KAATSU on here. It's called a one finger tightness. So I can put one finger through. Oops, I have a jacket so you can't put one finger through here. But it's tight enough that I can't put 2 or 3 fingers in. So if I try to put 2 or 3 fingers in through here, I can't shove it through. It's on too snugly. However, when you have AFib, we recommend for those physicians who do that to put the bands slightly less tight. When I put it slightly less tight, I can put 2 or 3 fingers through there easily. That means the band is on less tightly. When the band is on less tightly, when we inflate the band is in an oval shape, very important, because that means it does not restrict arterial flow. And these are the conditions where someone with cardiac issues should do and must do KAATSU. So we have a long list of these kinds of recommendations, and that we could provide you and your cardiologist.
So we can just see here, Stephen, this is what doing a live event is like. Just some supporters, even though they postponed the event, the supporters for, I guess it's Greg. Anyway, sorry.
No,
we're live.
Yes. So her questions are, can someone who's have bulging varicose veins in their calf, which has led to a small amount of blood pooling in the ankle, still use KAATSU? Not just sure if it would increase the pooling or stimulate better blood flow over time. So in this case, I believe, let's see, you are a 74-year-old woman. In this particular case, what I would recommend is you actually use the bands on your arms, doing it very, very gently, not your legs initially. Do that for a month or 2. See the effects of doing KAATSU on your upper body as it pertains to your lower body. I know it doesn't sound related, but it absolutely is. We have one vascular system. So the capillaries of our brain are connected to the veins of our feet. It's all interconnected. When you impact one part of your vascular system, you impact the other part of your vascular system. So you can do the KAATSU on your arms very gently, very mildly, very under low pressure. And that will eventually, over time, not immediately, not the next day, not the next week, but over time, 1 to 2 months, will help either the feeling of discomfort or pain or the appearance of the bulging varicose veins. And so if you want guidance through this process, you can go to our website and email us at info@kaatsu.com, or we actually have a one-on-one sessions with individuals. We have one-on-one sessions with people like Sandy Nelson, who's actually, Maria, she's around, or I'm sorry, Renee, she's about your age, and she's had years of experience of KAATSU. So we have people who understand your condition, who are of your same age, because we know, if I ask my 20-year-old daughter to give recommendations, and she's been doing KAATSU for many years, ask my 20-year-old daughter to give recommendations to a 75-year-old with a different conditions, there's some disconnect there. When we ask 70-year-old women who have 70-year-old bodies, who are experienced KAATSU users, to talk with other women of their same age group with similar conditions, this means that disconnect is not there. So we recommend that you reach out as you can. Our second question is, has KAATSU been shown to benefit anyone with severe arthritis? So any condition, any illness with KAATSU, even here amongst the Paralympic athletes that Chris and I are working with, it doesn't cure anything. So it won't cure arthritis. So that severe arthritis, which both my mother and father have, they're 86 and 88 years old. They do KAATSU 2 to 3 times a day. It's not going to cure arthritis. However, what it can do, and what it does for my parents specifically, and others like them, is that when my mother wakes up in the morning, for example, and wants to prepare breakfast, because of the arthritis, it actually is hard for her to grab or cut or do other things in the kitchen. She actually uses KAATSU in the morning, and that increases the blood flow in the hand. It actually increases the what we call C-reactive protein. It increases the beta endorphins. Beta endorphin, it actually helps, we call it the happy hormone. It actually helps people feel better because it actually reduces the pain. So even though she has very bad arthritis, even though KAATSU has no relationship with the arthritic pain, arthritis as a disease, and KAATSU engorging the limb and blood, leading to a hormonal response, what it effectively does is it reduces temporarily the pain that she feels. So what does that really mean? That means instead of waking up and suffering through trying to hold kitchen utensils and making the omelet or whatever she's doing, she is effectively reducing that pain temporarily, and that's why she does it multiple times a day, and is able to grab a pan, grab a cutting knife, and make breakfast without pain. And that is a temporary relief, but it's relief that actually relates directly to her normal daily lifestyle. So that's why in her particular case, she will use KAATSU throughout the day when she feels that pain increase. And when you feel that pain, you see people, including my mother, just sort of trying to stretch, trying to move in some way. Her KAATSU bands are located on the kitchen table. Why? Because that's where she is much of the day, and that is that's where she reads, that's where she makes breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's where we go when we visit her. We live very close to her. That's where we go. So, there's no direct relationship between KAATSU and any diseases, but if it actually helps reduce the level of pain, This allows you to continue with your lifestyle as you wish. Her next question is, has KAATSU been shown to benefit anyone with neuropathy in their hands and feet? Same explanation as I just did. We have lots of people here at the Paralympics. We have lots of our special forces operators or soldiers who use KAATSU for a variety of neuropathic pain. I would say over half, perhaps 70% of the people actually have some temporary relief of their neuropathic pain, but not everybody. So, because everybody's body is slightly different, and so the same recommendation: start at low pressure, build up. Don't need to do heavy weightlifting. You can just do simple stretching. Will help. Our last question is: does using KAATSU for extended periods of time each day have better results? Or is it important to pace yourself with small sessions? I would guess I'm asking, is more better? More is not necessarily better. However, daily or frequent use is best. So in other words, there are some people who are very, very busy and life gets in the way, and they'll do very intense KAATSU for 2 days a week. Or they'll go to the gym and use it there 3 days a week. In contrast to that, for those people like my mother who use KAATSU on a daily basis or twice daily basis or thrice daily basis, just doing regular household stuff, they see better results. So frequency is important, starting low is important, and doing it during simple movement is best. So is more better? I would say your max amount of KAATSU that you want to do is maybe 3 sessions a day. Also try to do KAATSU on your upper body and lower body in the course of the day. In other words, there are many men who only use KAATSU on their upper arm. I'm one of those. And there's many women, my wife is one of those, who primarily uses KAATSU on her lower body, her legs. I try to use KAATSU on my legs as much as I can. Typically, I'm using KAATSU while I'm giving demonstrations or on the computer. My wife is typically using KAATSU as she's walking the dog or doing other things. So we all have our different ways, but my wife tries to use KAATSU on her upper body at least 3 times a week. I try to go for a walk with KAATSU on my legs at least 3 times a week. Have another question from Carla.
We're at an hour and 2 minutes.
Yes. And Carla says, I would like to know what SKUs are and how much I have to put on them for arms and legs. I have multiple sclerosis and one leg and one arm do not move. I would like to know how many times a day I have to do them and how exactly how to program the machine, for example, the cycles, etc. Okay, so there's a lot of questions there. And Carla, SKU is a measurement that we use to measure the pressure in the band. What does SKU stand for? SKU stands for Standard KAATSU Unit. Many people equate Standard KAATSU Unit to MMHG, or millibars of pressure. So in other words, if you go to the doctor and they measure your blood pressure, they'll say you have 120/80 blood pressure. However, because KAATSU can go up to 400 SKU or 400 mmHg, 100% of physicians said you cannot do that. And they are correct. In other words, if KAATSU was a blood pressure cuff, and we recommended people using this blood pressure cuff, went up to 400 mmHg or SKU, we agree 100% with these physicians that should not be done at all. However, KAATSU is not a blood pressure cuff. KAATSU is not a tourniquet. The KAATSU is engineered completely different. So we can go up to 400 SKU and be perfectly safe. Now, we don't recommend people go up to 400 SKU unless they're very, very fit and very, very experienced with KAATSU, but some people do. Most people are in the 100 to 200 SKU range. Right now, let's see, I put it lower at 3, so right now, because I've been doing this for many years, this is at a 200 SKU level. I just put it on, so we'll see the effects of this in a few minutes. But so SKU is a form of measurement in the band. So that's one of the questions of Maria. The second is, what pressure do I put it on? Maria, you have, is it Maria? Sorry, I think it's Maria. I want to make sure I'm sorry, Carla. Sorry, Carla. So Carla, your next question is, what pressure should I do? Carla, in your case with multiple sclerosis and the fact that you cannot use one arm on the leg means it will make it very easy. On our devices, we have low, medium, and high, and then custom. Low is low pressure, medium is medium pressure, high is high pressure, and custom can range lower than low and higher than high. Because you have multiple sclerosis and because you cannot move one arm or one leg, we highly suggest that you use the custom mode. Custom mode meaning adjust the pressure lower than low. Depending on what device you have, that would be 60 SKU. Start off at 60 SKU and only do the cycle mode. Do not do the constant mode. And do that on one arm or the other. Now, if you cannot move one arm, I'm guessing that it's very, very difficult. If your right arm is immobile, I'm guessing that you cannot put on the band on your left arm. So you cannot do this. That's okay if you cannot. Now, we're coming out next year with a device that allows people without a hand or who have immobility in one limb to actually put on the band with one hand. You still need at least one mobile hand, but we're developing a device right now that allows you to put on a band without a hand or with immobility on one side, but that's next year. In the meantime, if you can't use the one hand and you can only use one arm, in this case, I would suggest that you start with your legs if you can't use the armband. So with the legs, you put the leg band on one leg, put the leg band on the other, both, so you have it both, and then set the device for low pressure. As you're doing your upper body exercises, even though you don't have the bands on your upper body, you could be doing movement with your upper body. You could be doing bicep curls, you could do isometric pushes, you can open and close your hands, you can do stretching, you can do shoulder rolls as the bands are on your legs. This is actually KAATSU workout on your upper body, so you can do that. For your arm that is immobile or you can't use it, you can take, so let's say my right arm is immobile, I would take my left hand, grab my wrist, and actually physically move my immobile hand with my mobile hand. So I would do something like this. I could do all kinds of different movements with that. If I was able to place my hand on a wall or on a table, and I could, we would push down for 5 seconds. So let's say this is a table, this is my immobile hand. If I was able to push down, I would push 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, relax. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, relax. So, Carla, I don't exactly know the physical situation that you're in, but there are various ways that we can work around the immobility of what you're doing, and that is why we're here at the Paralympics. That's why when we see somebody that has one limb, double amputee on the leg, a residual limb on one arm, we figure out with that individual how to use KAATSU. On your leg, again, if you can rotate your ankle, great, as you're doing KAATSU. If, on the other hand, I can't move my right leg, but I have my left hand, I can try to move my leg up and down in any way that I can while we're doing KAATSU on low cycle while being well hydrated. How many times a day? I would start off your first week or two, once a day. That's it, only once a day. As you get more and more accustomed to KAATSU, then I would literally go up to 6 cycles a session. And over time, certainly by the 6th month, you should be at 2 sessions per day with 6 cycles on your arms and legs. So it's a very, very, very gradual increase in KAATSU as you go from week to week, month to month. How to program the machine for a cycle? Only use a KAATSU cycle. Only use a KAATSU cycle. If you have the KAATSU C4 or the newest KAATSU B2, there's a thing called a progressive cycle mode. Only use the standard cycle mode or the progressive cycle mode. Never, you don't have to worry about constant. That's actually for our able-bodied athletes or special forces soldiers who are doing something very specific. It could be a sniper, it could be a Navy SEAL, it could be Olympic wrestler, Olympic swimmer who are doing something very specific for their sport. Most of us are not in that category, so we don't need to use the constant. We have another question from Sherry, and Sherry's question is, I do 30 to 45 minute Pilates, 30 to 45 minute Pilates reformer workout 3 or 4 times each week. I've been using my bands during the workout, using an arm cycle while focusing on my arms and leg cycle while focusing on my legs. I'm just wondering if this is okay, given the training video exercises are much less strenuous. I've not felt any ill effects, but as a beginner, I wasn't sure what to expect. Sherry, if you do the Pilates reformer workout 3 or 4 times a week for 30 to 45 minutes, you're obviously a very fit and physically capable individual. That is what most of our users are not capable of myself included. That's a very difficult workout. So you are physiologically fit for KAATSU. The fact that you're using the KAATSU arms on when you're doing your arm workout, your leg bands or your leg workouts, and you're not feeling any ill effects, that's great. Continue that. Over time, you can actually increase the pressure that you're doing it on, always starting low, but perhaps finishing at a high pressure, and you can do that. What we would recommend is try to go as slowly as possible, which obviously Pilates that is, we're not sprinters or we're not boxers moving quickly. So going at a slow, deliberate pace is very good with Pilates and KAATSU. We have Randy, who has a variety of he has 5 questions, and he has the C4 model C4. He's a retired Navy SEAL. He's 70 years old. He's in excellent condition, and he does only 0 impact exercises due to knee, back, and hip pain, ongoing skin cancer surgeries, and he's an avid open ocean swimmer, swimming 1.5 miles 3 days a week. First of all, we salute you. That is Randy. That's pretty incredible. 70 years old, retired Navy SEAL, excellent conditions, but obviously all the Navy SEALs we know have all kinds of ongoing pain issues. But he swims and he does a variety of things. But his biggest issue is a loss of muscle mass and increasing capillary circulation due to his distal surgery sites, and he wants to recover faster using KAATSU. So how soon after KAATSU surgery can he do this? He also has access to a VASA Swim erg and an assault bike. So here are his questions. How do I use the C4 to prevent loss of muscle mass, especially ages from 70 to 100, and also while recovering from skin cancer treatments? So the use of cancer in KAATSU, there's no, you don't have to worry, you don't have to do anything special with skin cancer with KAATSU. You can continue your use of the C4 as is. I mean, obviously, if there's a recent incision because they took out a small tumor, so you want to wait until the surgical site repairs itself. But other than that, you don't have to worry about that. You continue as is. Randy, what I would suggest, especially if you want to increase or maintain that muscle mass over the next 30 years until we celebrate your 100th birthday, what I would do is do very slow, deliberate movements. Very slow and deliberate. So if you're doing a bicep curl, it doesn't have to be with weights or dumbbells. It could be unweighted bicep curls. Contract your muscle. So make a muscle. As you move in this bicep curl direction, both upwards and downwards, I'm trying to make a muscle, but you can't see with my jacket. So up, close, down, close. On a slow count, contracting your muscle with the C4 in the cut cycle mode. It is really difficult. It is really, really difficult. You will build up lactate in your muscle probably by the second repetition, and it will increase from there. That's what you want to increase your or maintain your muscle mass, or increase it in fact. So very slow and deliberate, slow up and slow down. So you're slowing things down both in the concentric and eccentric directions, no matter what the movement or exercise is. You're contracting the muscle as you do it. So if you're doing squats, the same thing, try to contract the muscles going down and up, constantly moving. So in other words, if I'm doing squats, I don't want to lock my knees at the end and then go down. I want to have a continuous movement going up and down. Randy, you will have a killer workout and a killer pump after this. I would precede this workout with a bunch of low pressure cut cycles. Just warm. You could just be sitting, you could be stretching, you could be drinking some water, whatever the case is. Precede this slow, deliberate, in the eccentric and concentric direction with several cycles on low pressure and being well hydrated, because that workout, that slow workout, contracting muscles, will be killer. In addition, to maximize your hypertrophy in your muscles, you want to limit your rest time to 20 seconds. You will find, Randy, it will be a killer workout. You will really feel pumped up at the end of that. You don't have to do that, or you can do that once a day. Second KAATSU workout day can simply be the bands on, like I have right now, watching a movie, reading a book, going out for a simple walk, and that will actually help the recovery. So you want to have a hard KAATSU workout, hard KAATSU workout, recovery workout, and so on. And this really, really will help you maintain your muscle mass. So that's the first question. Second question is, how do I use the C4 to improve your swimming on the VASA or etc.? Again, always use the cycle mode. You can have it in your arms or your legs, depending on what the exercise you have. And if you email us at info@kaatsu.com, Chris Morgan, our Olympic swim coach, can send you out some very specific workouts you can follow. Sometimes it has to do with the duration, sometimes intensity and speed, sometimes it's specific drills, sometimes it's the number of strokes. So like a swimming workout, variety is very good, and it works on different things.
Yeah, I think same, Steve, with the other, anyone who is interested in really swimming stuff, if you just send us your question to our info at KAATSU.com, it'll come to Steven and myself. So our people who answer the emails will get any swimming questions directed to us, and we'll get you some really detailed that I think you'll appreciate.
And Randy asked, how should he use the assault bike with his KAATSU C4 model to increase his VO2 max? Typically, he's doing a Tabata workout, so 4 minutes of intense work. But should I use the arm or leg bands or both? So, Randy, what I would do is alternate. So one workout arms, one workout legs. You'll find out which is more comfortable or better for you. You will also find out where you're most weak. And so work on your weakness and then maintain your strength, and that should be good. You can do it at Tabata workout on your assault bike. That's great because you're doing swimming workouts, you're doing a variety of other strength training workouts. So you're having a lot of different variety in there, and that's excellent with the KAATSU C4. His fourth question of 6 is, does my blood pressure go up all over my body with the C4 bands or just in the areas distal to each band? That's a good question. I don't know physiologically what the answer is. I mean, if we measure our blood pressure in our arm, and let's say it's 120/80, does that necessarily mean that our blood pressure in our leg is 120/80? I don't know the answer to that, and for that I will actually have to ask our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. David Chow. He's a very well-known NFL team doctor who has his patients include a number of people that we read about in the sports page and hear about in ESPN. I don't know the answer to that. He has been a KAATSU user since 2006, and he's located in La Jolla, so very close to the Navy SEAL base down in Coronado or Imperial Beach now, I think. So Randy, we'll get you the answer to that. We'll send the answer to a Navy SEAL who you may know. He's the next generation, John Doolittle. He works for us, and we'll get the information from Dr. Chow, send it to John Doolittle, and then I'm sure you and he are within 1 degree of separation from each other. Next question is, are only arm and legs affected by the C4 bands, or are muscles proximal to the bands also benefit? So in other words, if I have the bands on my arm, does only my bicep and tricep and forearm affected? Or does, in addition to the bicep and tricep, are the muscles of the chest and shoulders and back also affected? And the answer is yes. So even though the bands are placed here, this is only a catalyst for an overall strength benefit. And why does that happen? I build up the lactate in my arm. That sends a signal to my brain. Brain releases a growth hormone. Growth hormone goes to the muscle cells where it is being stressed. So the brain releases hormones immaterial to where the band is actually is. So if I'm doing bicep curls, then my bicep and triceps are being stressed. That's where the growth hormone goes. However, if I'm doing bench press or push-ups, the muscles of the chest are being stressed, and that's where the growth hormones have their impact. So the band's location and the impact of the physiology are 2 different things. If I'm doing something on my chest, it will help my chest. If I'm doing something isometrically or dynamically, it will help those areas in the body. How is the advanced cycle mode used? The advanced cycle mode, actually, Randy, what I would recommend on the C4 that you do use the progressive cycle mode. The progressive cycle mode is different from the standard cycle mode. The standard cycle mode is 8 steps. So we say about, it's about 1 set in the cycle mode is about 7 minutes worth of work. 1 set in the progressive cycle mode, which starts out lower but ends up higher, that's about 15 minutes worth of work. And that's actually what we do in reality with most people. That's the thing that Dr. Sato created. So if you have that progressive cycle mode, I would use that, Randy, for all the things that we spoke about. That would be, for you, that would be the best option, because obviously you're a fit 70-year-old former Navy SEAL, do a variety of exercises, and I would use the progressive cycle mode on low Over time, if you want, you can customize the progressive cycle mode from a low standard setting to something higher. And you can try that over time. So we've reached our last question. And very interesting question from Vivian. And Vivian asks, she writes, Stephen has said that the ideal time to wait between a KAATSU session and a meal is 90 minutes. Does this also go for intake of other vitamins or medications? I realize drinking water does not count. Okay, so the issue of that 90-minute window actually came from the combative sports world, so boxers, wrestlers, and MMA fighters. Those individuals have to have a certain weight. If let's say 150 pound, 150 pound, 55 pound weight class, and I'm 156 pounds on weigh-in, I cannot fight against these guys. So typically, if you remember the movie Rocky, these boxers run and they sweat and they sweat out water weight in order to make weight, or they work very hard to drop weight or to gain weight to be in a certain class. The wrestlers came to us and they were always struggling to make weight, and typically they would do a lot of running with all kinds of stuff to sweat it out and then go and get their weight. They found that if they did KAATSU and they did not eat between the cut session and their first meal, that they were able to drop weight. And it made physiological sense when we learned this many years ago. And why is because when we're doing KAATSU, the vascular tissue is expanded. When it's expanded, as it expands with every heartbeat, it actually burns more calories. It requires more energy to expand more, therefore it's burning more calories. So while the KAATSU is on your arm, and then when it's off your arm, that vascular tissue is still expanded. That means it's still requiring extra energy. And so during that time when it's requiring extra energy, when it's literally burning more calories, you don't want to be feeding the body if you're into losing weight, if that's your goal. So that's why, just as a standard practice, we recommend that 90-minute window. Now, some people have to go to work. Some people like to take vitamins or supplements, whatever it is. Go ahead and take that, not a problem whatsoever. All we're doing, that 90-minute window had to do with either weight maintenance or weight loss. There are many people that we see, Paralympians here, who don't need to lose weight, they actually want to gain weight. So they would do the opposite. After a KAATSU workout, they would actually feed their body, whether it's protein or carbohydrates or fats, whatever their diet would call it. So that 90-minute window is related to weight maintenance or weight loss. And if that is one of your goals, then during that 90-minute window, try not to eat anything. You know, if it's an hour or if it's 45 minutes, you know, that's okay. But this actually practice of weight maintenance and weight loss actually comes from those athletes, competitive athletes, who do need to make a certain weight for competition. So Vivian, I hope that was helpful. Randy, Maria, Carla, all of you who've asked questions, I'm sorry this went so long, but Chris and I are here from Paris, standing at the Paralympic triathlon course tomorrow. This place will be packed with people, absolutely packed with people. It's been so wonderful at the Paralympics to see stadiums jam-packed. They're full house. You cannot buy a ticket in these, and that's actually the first time that this occurred. And it's a beautiful thing for these Paralympic athletes who live with a disability all their lives to be honored and celebrated and cheered by people like us. So enjoy the rest of the Olympics. I hope you enjoyed this question and answer, and if you have any questions, email us at info@kaatsu.com. And Chris, you opened up the program. You want to say the last few words?
Yeah, no, we'll flip it around. And yeah, thank you, Stephen. Sorry if I was wiggling a lot, but I felt like I was holding a 30-pound phone.
Yeah.
And we'll zoom in on the iconic Eiffel Tower. See everyone later.
Bye.
Goodbye.